My father gave me an ultimatum. Apologize to my stepbrother for something I didn't do, sign a letter confessing to something vile, or leave his house forever. I chose the door. 8 years later, they're begging me for help because their golden son has shattered their lives while I'm thriving. Here's how one single lie and one bad decision destroy them. Hi, I'm Felicia Banner, 25 years old, and the story I'm about to tell you will leave you speechless. Not just from disbelief, but from how far my own stepbrother would go to destroy my life, and how my dad threw me out of his house. Before we begin, tell me where you're listening from. I need to see I'm not alone. And subscribe if you believe in justice. Let's dive in. This story really begins when I was 8 years old, after my mom died in a fatal car crash. Dad seemed lost after that, like he'd forgotten how to be a father without her there to guide him. Less than a year later, he married Tina. She came into our lives with her 5-year-old son Franklin, who learned quickly that he could do no wrong in our home. Mischievous, bold, and already fluent in lies, he somehow charmed everyone. Tina openly favored him and made no secret of her dislike for me. Dad never intervened. It was like he was afraid of Tina, letting her treat me however she wanted. Seeing the favoritism, Franklin grew bold, treating me like an intruder in my own father's house. By the time I turned 12, the pattern was obvious. Franklin colored on the walls, and Tina just smiled, calling it artistic expression. I brought home an A on a tough exam, and she barely glanced at it before turning back to him. Dad nodded along with everything she said, like he'd handed over all parenting decisions the day they married. I learned to make myself small. My sanctuary was my mother's old camera, a vintage Canon that still smelled faintly of her perfume. I loved photography, and through the lens, I framed the world the way I wanted, telling stories when words felt useless. By 17, I'd accepted that my stepmother hated me and her son could do no wrong. All I cared about now was getting into photography school and building a career behind the camera. I spent months preparing my application for Easton School of Visual Arts in Boston. The centerpiece was my What She Left Me series, photographs of my mother's belongings, arranged with careful intention. Each photograph held a memory, a piece of her I was desperately trying to keep alive. For the first time in years, I felt like I could create something beautiful even when everything around me felt ugly. I was in my room on a Tuesday afternoon, setting up my final shots. My mother's memory box sat on my desk, my camera on its tripod. The deadline was 3 days away. I had no idea the next 10 minutes would destroy everything I'd worked for, far worse than losing my project. Franklin burst through my door without knocking. Typical. He was 15 now, tall for his age, with that entitled swagger kids get when they've never heard the word no. "I need your camera," he announced, like it was already decided. I didn't look up from adjusting my lens. "I'm using it. Mom said you should share. I need it for school tomorrow." "Use your phone. This is my scholarship application. The SD card has all my work on it." His jaw tightened. "You always do this. Just let me borrow it for one night. Ask Dad to rent you one." He reached for my camera casually, like my objection didn't matter. I moved between him and the tripod. "Don't touch it." He reached again, more insistently. I grabbed his arm to stop him. In the struggle, his elbow knocked the tripod. The camera crashed to the floor with a sickening crack. The lens shattered. Pieces of glass scattered across my carpet. "Whoa," Franklin said, taking a step back. "That wasn't my fault. You grabbed me." I knelt down, hands shaking. The lens was destroyed. $400. For months of work. Gone. Something hot and sharp twisted in my chest. "Get out," I said quietly, my voice barely containing the fury building inside me. He started to turn, then paused, his eyes landing on my desk where my mother's memory box sat open. "Is this all that stuff you're always obsessing over?" "Franklin, just leave. Mom says you need to let go of the past." He moved closer to the desk. "It's not healthy. Don't touch anything," I demanded. His hand reached toward the box, testing. When I moved toward him, his elbow accidentally knocked into it. The box tumbled off the desk. Everything spilled out. Photographs, letters, jewelry, her favorite scarf. Oops, he said flatly. My bad. No. I scrambled toward the scattered items. These weren't just things. They were pieces of her. Pieces I couldn't replace. And he destroyed them like they were nothing. Like she was nothing. That's when he noticed the necklace. My mother's silver necklace with small crystals that caught the light. He picked it up slowly, examining it. Give it back. I stood up, my voice breaking. You know she's been gone for like 9 years, right? Maybe you should move on. His tone wasn't mocking. It was matter of fact, which somehow felt worse. I reached for the necklace. He pulled back. Don't grab me. Just give it back, please. He paused, eyes calculating. Really getting physical over this? I let go. Please, just give it back. He looked at the necklace again, then at me. For a second, I thought he might actually return it. Instead, his fingers tightened around the chain. You know what? If it means this much to you. He pulled both ends hard. I yelled, asking him not to destroy the necklace. But it was too late. The silver snapped. Crystals scattered across the floor. He dropped the broken chain and walked toward the door, his expression carefully blank. You should really work on your anger issues, he said quietly, then left. I stood there in tears. Shaken. Franklin had just deliberately destroyed my mother's necklace and felt no remorse. I didn't know it yet, but those words, anger issues, were a preview. He was already building his story, the story that would force me out of my own home. I spent hours trying to find every crystal. Some had rolled under my dresser. Others disappeared into the carpet fibers. My project was ruined. The deadline was 3 days away, and I had nothing. No camera, no setup, no ability to recreate what I'd lost. With each missing crystal, I felt something inside me hardening. This wasn't fair. This wasn't right. But what terrified me more was the small voice whispering that maybe I had done something wrong. Maybe I should have just let him take the camera. Maybe I really was selfish.
No.
I pushed the thought away. I had every right to protect my mother's memory. That night, I heard voices downstairs. Raised voices. I crept to the top of the stairs, something cold forming in my stomach. I don't know how to explain it, Franklin was saying, his voice uncertain. It felt wrong. Wrong, how? That was Tina, her voice sharp with concern. She kept grabbing me, like really tight, and she was being so intense about everything. He paused, and I could imagine him looking down, appearing vulnerable. I asked to borrow her camera, and she completely lost it. Started yelling, then she grabbed my wrist really hard and wouldn't let go. She grabbed you? Dad's voice now, confused and alert. Yeah, and when I tried to pull away, she just held on tighter. Started saying weird stuff about. Then she moved really close to me. Too close in an inappropriate way. The cold in my stomach turned to ice. He was actually going to lie about what happened, twist it into something vile, and they would believe him. Are you saying she made you uncomfortable? Tina's voice was steel. A long pause. When Franklin spoke again, his voice was smaller, more hesitant. I don't want to make it a big thing. Maybe I'm overreacting. Franklin, honey, if something happened, you need to tell us. The way she was touching me felt wrong. Like it wasn't about the camera or the necklace. It felt like she was trying to. I don't know. It scared me. Oh my God. Mom's voice. That's absolutely unacceptable. I couldn't believe my ears. I heard footsteps coming toward the stairs. Ran back to my room, heart pounding. He'd accused me of something so vile, I couldn't even fully process it. And they were coming for me right now, already convinced I was guilty. Dad knocked once and opened my door without waiting. Tina stood behind him, arms crossed. Franklin lurked at the back, eyes downcast in a perfect impression of a traumatized victim. Felicia. Dad's voice was strained. We need to talk about what happened today. Dad, I can explain. Franklin told us what you did. He still wouldn't look me in the eye. And we need to understand what happened. She needs to take responsibility. Tina interjected sharply. This is serious. I didn't do anything. He broke into my room, destroyed my camera, Ruined my mother's things. He says you grabbed him inappropriately. That you made him uncomfortable. Tina stepped forward. He came to us visibly shaken. Dad glanced at my desk, at the scattered items on the floor. Something flickered across his face. Doubt, maybe, or confusion. Felicia, what happened to your? She's trying to deflect. Tina cut in. Making this about property damage when Franklin is the one who was violated. Dad's mouth closed. He looked at Franklin, then back at me, his expression torn. Franklin's expression was carefully neutral, maybe even slightly afraid-looking. The performance was flawless. They were going to make me the villain in a story I didn't write, force me to confess to a crime I didn't commit. But then I thought about my mother, about what she'd think if she could see me now, about to let someone rewrite reality, because it was easier than fighting.
No.
This is insane, I said, my voice rising. He's lying. He destroyed my project, broke my mother's necklace on purpose, and now he's making up lies about what happened. Why would he lie about something like this? Tina demanded. Dad rubbed his face with both hands. I don't. Felicia, this is a serious accusation. Because he knows you'll believe him. Because he always gets away with everything. That's enough. Dad's voice cracked. I won't tolerate this kind of behavior. You're going to apologize to Franklin. I'm not apologizing for something I didn't do. I shot back. Dad looked uncomfortable, his eyes darting between me and Tina. Then maybe we can talk about this when everyone's calmer.
No.
Tina's voice was ice. This gets resolved now. She writes a letter acknowledging what she did and apologizing formally. We need it in writing. Dad hesitated, his mouth opening as if to object. For Franklin's protection. Tina added firmly. And ours. Dad's shoulders sagged. She's right, Felicia. You need to write it down. I stared at her. You want me to sign a false confession? It's not false if you did it, Tina said sharply. Dad shifted his weight, not meeting my eyes. And until you do this, you're grounded. No privileges, no leaving your room except for school. You're grounding me for being assaulted by your golden child? Don't. Dad's face flushed.
Don't make this about that.
This is about your behavior toward your stepbrother. But his voice lacked conviction, like he was reciting lines someone else had written. I looked between them. Dad, who once read me bedtime stories and taught me to ride a bike, now unable to meet my gaze. Tina, who never wanted me here to begin with. Franklin, maintaining his carefully constructed mask. I have a third option for you, Dad said, and his voice cracked. He cleared his throat. Apologize and sign the letter, or leave this house and don't come back. The room went silent. Even Franklin looked surprised. Tina nodded approvingly. You're kicking me out? Dad's jaw worked silently for a moment. I'm giving you a choice. Take responsibility for your actions, or remove yourself from this family. His hands were trembling at his sides. I stood at a crossroads. I could sign a lie and stay, slowly disappearing into nothing. Or I could walk out that door into complete uncertainty. I had $700 in my bank account. No car. No plan. Just my mother's sister across town who might not even answer her phone. Tell me, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Apologize for something you didn't do, or walk out into the unknown? Looking at their faces, I realized they'd already decided. Truth didn't matter. Facts didn't matter. Franklin's word was gospel, and mine was worthless. If I stayed here, I would spend the rest of my life apologizing for existing, shrinking smaller and smaller until there was nothing left of me at all. All right, I said quietly. Dad looked startled. All right, what? I'm leaving. Felicia, don't. He took half a step forward, then stopped. Don't be dramatic. Just apologize. I won't sign a lie. So, I'm leaving. I pulled out my duffel, folding clothes and grabbing essentials. I wasn't running away. I was running toward something. You're really going to throw away your family over stubbornness? She made her choice, Tina said firmly. Let her go. I zipped the bag closed. You threw me away the day you married someone who hated me. I'm just finally accepting it. I called Aunt Marie from the convenience store 2 blocks away. My mother's sister, the one person who'd stayed in touch after the funeral. "Come here, baby," she said immediately when I explained. "Come right now." Aunt Marie lived 40 minutes across town in a small house with a garden she tended obsessively. When I arrived, she pulled me into a hug that smelled like lavender and safety. I broke down. The accusation, the broken necklace, the destroyed project, the ultimatum. It all came pouring out while she held me. For days, I barely left the guest room. The scholarship deadline passed. The accusation played on repeat in my mind. What if people believed it? But deeper than the doubt was rage. Quiet, simmering rage at Franklin for lying, at Tina for orchestrating it, at Dad for being too weak to stand up for me. Aunt Marie didn't push. She brought me food, sat with me in silence, let me cry when I needed to. Finally, one evening, she knocked on my door with a large box. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside was a new camera. Not fancy, but functional. And beneath it, a lighting kit and a portable backdrop. "Aunt Marie, I can't." "You can," she said firmly. "What happened to you was evil. That boy lied, and your father chose to believe it because believing you would mean admitting he failed as a parent. But you don't let evil win by giving up." Her words hit something inside me. Walking away had been the first step. But giving up now would mean Franklin won anyway. The anger that had been eating me alive needed somewhere to go. I could let it destroy me, or I could use it as fuel. The deadline passed. "So you'll apply next year. Meanwhile, you'll work. You'll build a portfolio that's even stronger.
And you'll use my shed."
We spent the weekend transforming her garden shed into a studio. By Monday, I had a real workspace. I started taking photographs again. The following year, I reapplied to Easton. My new portfolio was stronger, more focused. The What She Left Me series had evolved, incorporating the broken necklace, the scattered crystals, the fractured memories, into something rawer and more honest. As I sealed the application envelope, my hands shook. Not from fear this time, from determination. The acceptance letter arrived in March. Full scholarship to one of the top photography programs in the country. I read it 3 times before I believed it. Then I walked into Aunt Marie's kitchen and showed her silently.
She cried.
Happy tears, pulling me into a hug that felt like every good thing I'd never had growing up, all at once. Meanwhile, across town, Franklin enrolled in a local college. I heard about it through Clara, my dad's neighbor. He'd started pursuing a girl named Alice who'd made it clear she wasn't interested. He couldn't accept her rejection. Started following her around campus, messaging her constantly, showing up at her dorm. When she continued refusing him, he accused her of stealing his expensive laptop. Created social media posts about her. Made her life miserable. It was the exact same playbook he'd used on me. Because it had worked once, why wouldn't it work again? But this time, someone was listening to the victim. Alice reported him. The college investigated and found messages where Franklin threatened her, evidence he'd lied about the laptop, documentation of his harassment. He was expelled for creating a hostile environment and making false accusations. When I heard, I felt something calmer, colder. Of course he'd done it again. People like Franklin don't change unless forced to, and he'd never been forced to face a single consequence. Until now. Tina defended Franklin publicly, claiming the college had it out for him, that he was the real victim. Instead of learning from the experience, Franklin fell in with a local gang. Started with petty theft and vandalism. Tina and Dad continued making excuses, bailing him out of minor troubles. But while Franklin spiraled, I flourished. My work at Easton caught attention. Fashion brands started reaching out. My photographs appeared in magazines, on websites, eventually on television shows. By 25, I had my own studio, a roster of high-profile clients, and more work than I could handle. I made sure Aunt Marie never wanted for anything, paid off her mortgage, renovated her house. The day I handed her the final mortgage payment, she tried to refuse it. "You've already given me so much," she said. "You gave me my life back," I replied. "This is just money." But it wasn't just money. It was proof that choosing truth over comfort had been right. Proof that my world was rebuilding itself piece by piece. Franklin's, on the other hand, was collapsing fast. One night, the consequences he dodged for years finally caught up with him. His gang attempted to rob a convenience store. Police arrived during the operation. Most of the gang scattered, but Franklin ran home, thinking he'd be safe there. Someone tipped off the police. They showed up at Dad and Tina's house an hour later with a warrant. Franklin was arrested on the front lawn in handcuffs while Tina screamed at the officers and Dad stood frozen. Half the neighborhood watched. The charges were serious. Armed robbery, assault, possession of stolen goods from multiple previous thefts. My phone rang 2 days later. Dad's number. I stared at it, watching it vibrate in my hand. 8 years of silence. 8 years of him choosing them over me. And now this. I almost didn't answer. Finally did on the last ring. Felicia. His voice was hoarse. I need to talk to you. Silence. I was wrong. About everything. About that day with Franklin, about how he treated you, about choosing to believe. His voice broke. I'm so sorry. I waited. The apology felt hollow, too little and far too late. I should have believed you. Should have protected you. Should have seen what he was becoming.
He was crying now.
I failed you as a father. Yes, I said quietly. You did. Part of me wanted to rage at him, but I was tired of carrying that anger. It had fueled me for 5 years. Maybe it was time to set it down. Can you forgive me? I thought about it. I can forgive you. That doesn't mean I can forget, or trust you again, or come back. Forgiveness didn't mean reconciliation. It meant releasing the hold this had on me. He could live with his guilt. I didn't need to carry it for him anymore. I understand. I don't deserve your trust. A pause, and his voice became smaller. But we need help. Franklin's legal fees are destroying us. The bail is $10,000. His lawyer wants another $15,000 upfront. We're drowning. There it was. The real reason for the call. The apology had just been the preamble to the ask. I almost laughed. Some things never changed. Let me talk to her. Tina's voice came through, sharp even in desperation. Felicia, I know we had our differences, but he's still family. Your brother needs help. My brother. The same woman who'd forced me out was now claiming Franklin was my family. He's not my brother. And he's exactly where he belongs. How can you be so cold? Tina's voice rose. He made mistakes, but he's still young. He falsely accused me of something vile. You believed him without question. Kicked me out of my home. And now you want me to pay for the consequences of the behavior you enabled. Dad's voice came back on, defeated. We're losing everything. The legal fees, the shame. I might lose my job over this. Tina's not working. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage. I thought about hanging up, about walking away cleanly. But part of me, the part that still remembered my mother, felt tender. I'll send $5,000, I said. Not for Franklin. For you. Because somewhere under all the bad choices, you're still my father. But that's it. After this, we're done. It wasn't weakness. It was closure. I was choosing to help not because I owed him anything, but because I could afford to be generous. Felicia, please. His voice broke completely. Don't cut us off. I know I don't deserve it, but please don't. I hung up and transferred the money. Then I blocked their numbers. Part of me felt guilty, but I knew I'd enabled him one last time. Already too much. But mostly I felt free. The girl who left that house 8 years ago had needed his approval and belief. The woman I'd become didn't need anything from him at all. Last month, I held my first major exhibition in New York. What She Left Me series, complete now, including the broken necklace crystals set in resin, photographs of the scattered pieces, images of reconstruction and survival. Aunt Marie flew in for the opening. First class on tickets I'd sent her. We stood together in the gallery, surrounded by people praising my work, discussing the emotional depth, the technical skill, the story behind each image. I watched them examine my photographs, Strangers seeing beauty and meaning in the worst moment of my life, transformed into art. Standing there, I felt something I'd never felt in my father's house. Proud. Your mother would be proud, Aunt Marie whispered. Thank you, I said, for everything. I held her hand, and we walked towards her table. Franklin remains in jail, serving a 5-year sentence. Dad and Tina are still dealing with the aftermath, living in a small apartment, struggling financially. I'm here in my studio, building the life my mother would have wanted for me. The life I almost gave up to satisfy people who never valued me. Sometimes people ask if I regret leaving that day. If I wish I'd apologized just to keep the peace. I tell them the same thing every time. I regret nothing. Peace bought with lies isn't peace. It's just delayed destruction. And I chose truth. If you enjoyed this story, do subscribe for more.